I hope I hope I am audible and visible to everyone. It would be great if somebody could confirm in the comment section below that I am audible and visible. I hope I am both audible and visible for the class. It would be great if somebody could confirm in the comment section below. I hope I am both audible and visible for. Okay, lovely. So we'll begin with our class on pollution today. Good evening, everyone. I am Miss Manjeet, your subject expert for community health nursing at Nursing Next Life. You are experiencing this learning under the plan UG NORCET under Nursing Next Life, wherein we provide the guidance for UG and NORCET under the same roof. This class is going to be beneficial from both NORCET point of view. Along with that, it is very beneficial from the UG point of view, since we'll be discussing the possible questions at the end of the class. And during the class, we'll be discussing the probable and possible MCQs that could be asked in your next NORCET exam. So without any further delay, let's get started. Topic of the day is concept and prevention of air, water, and noise pollution. So in today's class, we'll be discussing majorly about three types of pollution, which is air pollution, noise pollution, and water pollution. At the end of the session, you all will be able to define various types of pollution, list down the sources of pollution, and explain the prevention and control of pollution. So to begin with, let's start with our topic on air pollution. Pollution is such a common word that we encounter in our day-to-day lives, and we encounter it very frequently. But when it comes to define it in terms of keywords and in terms of specific terms, we find it a little difficult, because I always say in my classes that definitions in any professional course or in community health nursing or in any subject, they are supposed to include certain keywords. If those keywords are missing from all those definitions, then it is likely that the definition is incomplete. So air pollution is defined at presence in the ambient atmosphere of substances which are generated. Now they are talking about certain substances, and how they are generated. They are generated by the activities of man, and these are generated in such a quantity that they interfere with the human health, safety, comfort, injurious to animals, vegetations, and other environmental media, resulting in chemicals entering the food chain, or they are present in the drinking water. And this in turn creates an additional source of human exposure. Clear? So we'll try to conceptualize this definition again, that any presence of any substances, atmospheric substances, which are generated by human activities, and their concentration has crossed a certain level. After that, it is going to interfere with human health, it is going to interfere with safety, comfort, injury, and they are injurious to vegetation, animals, and other environmental media. And what it will cause? This will cause that those atmospheric substances will enter the food chain, they will enter the drinking water, and this in turn will create an additional source of human exposure. Clear? So I hope we all are clear with the definition of air pollution. Now, there are two types of major air pollutants: primary air pollutants and secondary air pollutants. Primary air pollutants are those atmospheric pollutants which are emitted from a particular source. For example, You are working in an industry, and in that industry, there is a chimney. Now, all those air pollutants that are released from that particular chimney, from that particular source, will constitute the primary air pollutant. Clear? And all those air pollutants which are generated by the reactions between the primary air pollutants in the atmosphere, they were not, sourced out from a particular source. They were created in the environment. And how they were created? They were created with the reactions of all the air pollutants, all the primary air pollutants that were existing in the atmosphere at that time. Clear? So if we can, designate a particular source, that through this source, all these air pollutants were, being propelled out. So it is easy for us to measure the primary air pollutants. However, it is not convenient and it is not easy for us to measure the quantity of secondary air pollutants. Why? Because they are being generated in the atmosphere itself. They arise from the chemical reactions between the primary air pollutant. The classic example of secondary air pollutant is ozone, O3, which we designate for ozone. It is a secondary air pollutant and it is generated in the atmosphere itself by the reaction of primary air pollutants. So as of now, I hope I am clear. We have discussed two things. A, the definition of air pollution, and B, the types of air pollutants, primary air pollutant and secondary air pollutant. Now, you might ask me a question that why, it is convenient for us to measure, secondary air pollutants, or why it is convenient for us to measure, for primary air pollutants. Why do we want to measure them? This could be our possible question. See, whenever we do research in nursing field or public health field or any other field, it is very important for us to quantify things, because this is how we are going to assess the effect of any variable on the other. That's why it is very important for us to measure the air pollutants, because eventually we have to study the effect of these air pollutants on human health, maternal health, child health outcomes. There are various studies which have been conducted in India and in abroad that measure the impact of air pollutants on maternal health outcomes and child health outcomes. Now, when you go through those studies, you will see that mainly they have considered primary air pollutants. Why? Because they're easy to measure. Next is sources of air pollution. Okay, so one of the student is asking a question in the comment section, that is there any chances of getting any questions from pollution in NORCET? Yes, Anupam, it is very likely that you will get questions from pollution in NORCET. Along with the session, we'll be discussing the probable questions that could be there in the NORCET and how they can be framed. If we talk about the pre-pattern of NORCET aims, they'll directly ask very straightforward questions. However, if we talk about the mains pattern of NORCET, they will formulate the scenarios. For example, they might formulate that you are a nurse researcher and you are conducting nursing research on the effect of air pollutants on maternal health outcome. Which of the following air pollutant is most likely to be measured? Now you have to identify that which of the following is a primary air pollutant, and you will easily be able to answer that question. So yes, pollution topic is very important from both NORCET point of view and your community health nursing subjective point of view. Moving forward to the sources of air pollution, there are mainly three sources of air pollution: automobiles, industries, domestic sources. Now, what will fall under automobiles? Any vehicular pollution will fall under the first category. Industries, any industrial source such as chimneys or manufacturing plants, manufacturing factories, they will fall under the industries category. Third is the domestic sources. The chula which we use in our houses, it is considered to be a very major source of indoor air pollution, and they should not be ignored. There have been evidence which supports the finding that the household fire is strongly linked to diseases such as COPD. Moving on to the major air pollutants, there are basically six major air pollutants which are a matter of concern for our health. A, carbon monoxide, B, sulfur oxides, C, lead, D, particle pollution, nitrogen oxides, and ground level ozone. Out of them, we'll be discussing a few of them in detail and see how they can impact us. To begin with, carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is believed to be the most common and widely distributed pollutant. And you must have read it in your higher secondary classes that it is generated by the incomplete combustion of carbon containing material. And the concentration is always expressed in 8-hour average concentration. Wherever you see the carbon monoxide being measured, they will always measure in terms of 8-hour average concentration. Now it is your homework to find that why this 8-hour standard has been taken. Why not 12 hours, or why not 24 hours, or 2 days, or 5 days, or 6 days? There is a very good rationale behind this standard guideline that it is supposed to be expressed in 8-hour average concentrations. Moving on to sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is a colorless gas with a sharp odor. And the first symptom it will cause on the exposure to sulfur dioxide, it would be the irritation of eyes. It will affect the respiratory system and it will irritate the eyes. It later combines with water to form sulfuric acid, and this is how acid rain happens. And we all have read the hazardous effects of acid rain in our classes at some point of time. So as of now, we have discussed mainly two air pollutants. First was the carbon monoxide and second is the sulfur dioxide. Moving on to the lead. Lead can result from both inhalation, ingestion, and also with the help through the various traditional cosmetics and medicines. How will the inhalation occur? If there is any lead source, there is a contamination of any lead dust, and if you inhale it, then you are allowing lead to enter your body. The next source could be ingesting lead contaminated dust and water. The industries wherein the lead is very frequently used as part of their manufacturing process or as part of their raw materials, it is often seen that the people, the occupational workers which work there, and they eat in the surroundings, in the nearby vicinity of the lead exposure, their food tends to get contaminated with lead. And this in turn is a major source of ingestion of lead. Also, your traditional cosmetics and medicines, your things such as banana powder or your blushes, they also contain some elements of lead in their formulations. Next is, once lead enters the body, it is stored in various organs. And the major issue with lead entering our body is its tendency to get stored in various parts of the body. And it becomes almost impossible to, remove it from our body, and thus expounding the effect of hazardous effects of lead over time. Next, then it starts affecting the brain and CNS. As I said, it will affect various organs such as liver, brain, CNS. Most importantly, it will affect the brain and CNS part. It will enter both the central nervous system, the systemic circulation, the respiratory circulation. The major issue with lead in case of children is its ability to cause mental retardation, low IQ, and antisocial behavior. So that's why lead is a very huge matter of concern, particularly in case of children, followed by indoor air pollution. Meanwhile, if you have any doubt, please feel free to ask me in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to answer your doubts. Anupam has mentioned that I applied your tips about sleeping and study time. It's very nice to hear that from you, that at least it worked for a day, and I hope you'll continue it over time and see the difference yourself. Okay, so now we'll move to indoor air pollution. The major sources of indoor air pollution include the combustion of solid fuels, tobacco smoking, outdoor air pollution, emission from construction of materials, and improper maintenance of ventilation and air condition system. Now, exposure to indoor air pollution is very hazardous, And whenever you go to the community, especially in the rural areas of Haryana and Punjab, when you try to collect the data from families for your family case study, try to observe your surroundings. There is a tendency to have hookahs in rural areas, and this the smoke which is emitted from hookah, it is very dangerous for the children who lives in that house, also for the maternal also for the pregnant women or any maternal lady. So we tend to ignore such these little things, because but when we see them retrospectively, they tend to cause a very hazardous effects on our health. Exposure to indoor air pollution almost doubles the risk of childhood pneumonia. So please never ever tend to ignore the indoor air pollution. Next is monitoring of air pollution. It is very much important for us to monitor the levels of air pollution. You must have read in the newspaper and you must have encountered various instances where people say that now the air pollution index is crossing this, now it is touching the highest limit. It has break the all the records of past 5 or 10 years. So how do we measure that level of air pollution? The monitoring of air pollution is usually carried out using five techniques. A, we measure the sulfur dioxide level. It is considered to be one of the best indicators of air pollution. Second is grit and dust measurement, because since grit and dust are both a very good source of air pollution. Air pollution index, smoke or soiling index, and coefficient of haze. Now, the smoke or soiling index has often been asked in your NORCET exam. The question comes very straight away that smoke or soiling index is used for the monitoring of which type of pollution. So your answer would be it is used to measure air pollution. However, if the question comes that you have to select the best indicator, then you have to choose either sulfur dioxide or smoke or suspended particles. Clear? Next is air pollution monitoring in India. Every country around the globe has some sort of dedicated air pollution monitoring centers in their country. So in India, there is National Air Quality Monitoring System, which is sponsored by the CPCB, which is Central Pollution Control Board, and it has been monitoring the air quality under this National Air Quality Monitoring Program since 1990, and it has generated a database of over 14 years in 10 major Indian cities, 10 major metropolitan cities of India. They are, presenting their data with the help of this program on air pollution. Now, which are those 10 major Indian cities? They are Kolkata, Delhi, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, and Chennai, and many other. So the trend analysis, every time there is a measurement of any of the pollution types like air pollution, noise pollution, or water pollution, we tend to establish certain trends. That what are trends? These are changes over a period of time. Clear? We have trend experiments. We have trend type of research designs in which we tend to accumulate and present a cumulative change in any variable over time. So the trend analysis in case of air pollution monitoring showed that the suspended particulate matter exceeds the CPCB standards in all cities most of the time throughout the year. Moving on to the effects of air pollution, I hope you all know about the effects of air pollution, because we have been discussing this since our 8th or 9th class in schools, and surprisingly, we are learning this from very early stages of our life, and still we have not been able to, contain pollution. We have not been able to reduce it. So the health aspects of air pollution include, they are both immediate and delayed. The immediate are borne by the respiratory system, which will result in acute bronchitis. So if the examiner has asked you one immediate effect of air pollution, the answer is supposed to be acute bronchitis. Please remember, the immediate effect of air pollution is acute bronchitis. If the examiner is asking about the delayed effects, then the answer will be either chronic bronchitis or lung cancer or bronchial asthma, emphysema, and respiratory allergies. The immediate and the late effects of air pollution are different. So first we discussed health effects. Now we'll be discussing the social and economic aspects. The social aspects could be the destruction of plant and animal life, because as we have heard it many times that acid rain, which is produced with which is produced with the help of reaction between sulfur dioxide and water, it causes the damage to various buildings, and this in turn causes the destruction of plant and animal life, corrosion of pipes, damage to building, costs of cleaning, maintenance and repair. These all are the effects of air pollution. Moving on to the prevention and control of air pollution, there are 5 ways through which air pollution can be controlled. First is containment. What is containment? So we have discussed in the initial time being of our class that all the primary air pollutants which are generated from the source, they can be easily measured at the source level. Now if we know that this is the particular source for this particular primary air pollutant, if we somehow manage that source, if we somehow apply certain measures at that particular source, I hope we'll be able to contain some amount of air pollution. So containment is a method which is employed at the source level. Clear? Next is replacement. Replacement means the air pollutants which are tend to be more hazardous are replaced with lesser hazardous things. For example, earlier it was all the vehicles used to run on petrol and diesel. Now there are CNG vehicles also. So CNG is trying to replace the diesel and petrol, eventually minimizing the effect of air pollutants which are generated from the combustion of diesel and petrol. Next is dilution. We must have seen dilution at in and around our in and around our surroundings, that there are some water shedding trucks by the government that used to spray water on the roads and in the surroundings on the trees. Why they are doing it? Because they are trying to dilute the effect of that particular air pollutant or air pollution in general. Here next is the legislation. Legislation means there are certain laws, stringent laws which are supposed to be followed to prevent and control air pollution. And under the legislation part, Air Act 1981 has been formulated and implemented in India for prevention and control of air pollution. Next is international action. Since air pollution is a global issue, right? Every country is, struggling with some sort of air pollution, with some level of air pollution. So all the international countries, all the countries around the globe have formulated collective, actions, collective policies and formulations to prevent and control air pollution. Next is disinfection of air. Now, this disinfection of air could also possibly result in dilution of air. Clear? So, if we employ these 3 measures of disinfection of air, we are moving towards the prevention and control of air. First is mechanical. This reduces vitiated air and balances the density. Next is chemical. In this, we use the triethylene glycol. Dust control. In this, we apply oil to floors of hospitals and wards. Dust control is majorly used in case of hospitals and in operation theaters, wherein we sweep the floor with oil. Why? Because we have to minimize the effect of air pollution. So with this, we have come to an end on the air pollution. Our first concept of this class is over. I hope you guys have got at least some idea about all the things we discussed. We'll get a very good recap, very quick one. So to begin with, we discussed about the definition of air pollution. Moving on to, we discussed about the types of air pollutants, primary air pollutant or secondary air pollutant. Then we discussed about sources of air pollution such as automobiles, industries, and domestic sources. Then we discussed about 6 major air pollutants, out of which we have discussed carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and lead. Lead is believed to cause mental retardation, low IQ, and antisocial behavior among children. It is majorly infests our body through three ways: inhalation, ingestion, and traditional cosmetics and medicines. Next is indoor air pollution. The major sources of indoor air pollution include combustion of solid fuel or tobacco smoking or emission from construction, and it almost doubles the risk of childhood pneumonia. Then we discuss about the five indicators which are used to monitor air pollution, which are sulfur dioxide, grit and dust measurement, air pollution index, smoke, which is also known as soiling index, and coefficient of haze. Out of which the soiling index, sulfur dioxide, and suspended particles are believed to be the best indicators. Then we discuss about the air pollution monitoring in India, which is carried out by Central Pollution Control Board, and it has been done since 1990. Then we discuss about the effects of air pollution, wherein we discuss the health aspects, the social aspects, and the economic aspects. Then later we moved on to the prevention and control of air pollution, in which we discussed five measures. What are those? Containment, replacement, dilution, legislation, and international action. Then at the end, we discussed about the disinfection of air, in which the three measures were employed: mechanical, chemical mists, and dust control. So, in the meantime, if anyone has any doubt regarding any of the section, any of the slide, any of the content which we have discussed, please feel free to ask in the comment section below. In case anyone has any doubt regarding the air pollution, any of its content, we can discuss them here and now. I'll be more than happy to answer all your doubts. Okay, now we'll be moving on to the next concept of today's class, which is noise pollution. So what is noise? It is defined as any unwanted sound, or we generally define it as a wrong sound in the wrong place at the wrong time. But that doesn't mean that if somebody is giving you good advices and you are not liking it, it will come under the noise. No, it won't come under the noise. It is for our benefit. It has nothing to do with the person who is giving us that advice. So don't confuse it with that. Noise pollution is any wrong sound at the wrong place at the wrong time, and it is usually unwanted. Major sources of noise pollution: A. Automobiles, factories, aircrafts, domestic noises, and recreational noises. Let's start from the recreational noises. All the loud speaker system, which are generally seen at various functions and parties, they are a major source of city noise pollution. Also, our generation tends to use headphones all the time and exceeding the minimum level of exposure. This also comes under the recreational noise. Next is domestic noise. As part of our life, as part of our domestic culture, there are some sources. For example, the noise which results from the churning of mixies. This all or blenders. This also comes under the source of noise pollution. Aircrafts such as the airships and the hijet helicopters and aeroplanes which are used, they are also a very good source of noise pollution. Factories, all the factories which use heavy machinery, and those heavy machinery produce a sound which exceeds the minimum level of exposure, they also come under the sources of noise pollution. Automobiles include the continuous honking of vehicles when you are on road, and that is also a very good source of noise pollution in cities, because it is just imperative to have it is imperative to have a lot of honking while on road. Next is properties of noise. Whenever we measure noise or we describe noise, we tend to do it in of two terms, A, loudness, and B, frequency. Loudness depends on the amplitude of the vibration which initiated the noise. Clear? And it is usually expressed and measured in terms of decibels. Frequency is denoted as hertz. The appropriate or the good human ear can hear frequencies from 20 to 20,000 hertz. Below 20 will be infraaudible and more than 20,000 hertz will be ultrasonic. If we combine both these properties, that is, we combine loudness and frequency, there comes a psychoacoustic index, which is known as phone, and it is the most commonly used index to measure loudness. So phone is the psychoacoustic index of loudness. Moving on to the instruments to measure noise. So there are sound level meters which measure intensity, octave band frequency analyzers which measure the noise in octave bands, audiometer which measures the hearing ability. Whenever you are posted to your ENT postings, please make sure that you try to appreciate audiometer in your clinical settings. It must be available, and you try to understand how it works, the principle of audiometer, what does it measure, so that you can easily remember the instruments to measure noise. Next are the acceptable noise levels. This table is a very straightforward table. There is no rocket science in it. You can easily remember and you can easily comprehend. Now, if there have been instances where the questions have been asked from this table. Now, if the question comes from this table, it is very easy for us to answer and it is very easy for us to score. So please try to have a grasp on those topics which are easy to remember. Don't try, avoid making mistakes, avoid making wrong choices in those topics. Clear? So these are the acceptable noise level. For bedroom, it is 25 decibels, living room 40, for office, it is 35 to 45, conferences for 40 to 45, restaurants 40 to 60, workshop 40 to 60, laboratories 40 to 50, and for wards, it is 20 to 35. Next are the effects of noise exposure. The unwanted noise can have either auditory effects or non-auditory effects. Now, what are those auditory effects? Auditory effects will usually occur when the loudness will increase the 90 decibel range and the frequency will increase the 4000 hertz. Or I should say that the auditory fatigue is maximum at the 90 decibel level and 4000 hertz level. Next is deafness. The temporary hearing loss can occur anywhere between 4000 and 6000 hertz, and the loudness will be more than 100 decibels. If it crosses the 160 decibel, it is likely to cause rupture of tympanic membrane. So I will quickly try to remember it here and now. Fatigue occurs in the loudness more than 90 decibel and frequency more than 4000 hertz. Deafness will occur when 90 decibel will cross and 100 decibel will be there, and 4000 will cross and 4000 to 600 hertz will be there. If this 100 decibel crosses 160 decibel, then the rupture of tympanic membrane is likely to be there. So please remember these three data, they are very, very important. Clear? Moving on to the non-auditory, we have discussed the auditory effect of noise exposure. Now we'll be discussing the non-auditory effects. Now what can be the non-auditory effects? Anyone? जब वो आवाज आ रही है जो हमें नहीं पसंद, what could be the non-auditory effects? We'll feel irritated, right? We'll feel annoyed. We'll feel, our efficiency will reduce. जो हम बोल पा रहे हैं या जो कोई और बोल पा रहा है वो हम सुन ही नहीं पाएंगे. So interference with speech is there. Annoyance can also occur. Efficiency is reduced. Physiological changes are there. If you're irritated, your heart rate might increase. Economic losses, because ultimately there is going to be loss in your productivity. There is going to be a loss in your efficiency. There is going to be some sort of physiological damage, which in turn will place us at economic losses. Moving on to the control of noise. Noise pollution is easier to control. It is easier to prevent as compared to water pollution and air pollution. Right. So, how can we control noise pollution? A careful planning of cities. It is usually said that 10 to 20 foot of space is left from the road if you want to build houses. They just not be built next to roads. Next is control of vehicles. There should be a minimum number of vehicles that should be allowed on roads at any point of time. To improve the acoustic insulation of buildings, there should be soundproof walls. There should be they should be covered with soundproof material. Industries and railways. Railway is a very significant source of noise pollution, and if we are able to contain them using appropriate noise cancellation devices or protective devices which are supposed to be given to the workers working out there, we can minimize the noise pollution and the auditory and non-auditory effects of air pollution. Protection of exposed person. How will you protect them? By giving them appropriate devices such as noise cancellation devices, headsets and headphones. Legislation, as we discussed earlier, that whenever we talk about legislation, it mainly says that there are certain stringent laws which needs to be followed. Education, we need to educate the community about the control of noise pollution. Also, whenever we are giving education in community, make sure that it itself is not a source of noise pollution. Whenever you go to a community hostings and you organize rallies and nukkad nataks, and if you tend to use loudspeaker system, make sure that it is not a source of noise pollution for them just because you want to complete your assignments, right? With this, we will move forward to the water pollution. Before that, in case if you have any doubt regarding noise pollution or air pollution, I'll be more than happy to answer them. We have discussed various things under noise pollution, such as what is noise pollution, major sources of noise pollution, what are the properties of noise pollution. We discussed about phone, which is the psychoacoustic index of loudness. Then we discussed about instruments to measure noise, such as sound level meter, octave band frequency analyzer, and audiometer. Acceptable noise levels, such as which are tend to be followed in various settings. Then we discuss about the effects of noise exposure, auditory and non-auditory. Auditory में भी discuss कि अगर 90 decibels और 1000 hertz है तो auditory fatigue, 110 decibel है और 4000 से 6000 hertz है तो deafness, अगर 160 decibel क्रॉस कर दिया है तो rupture of tympanic membrane. नॉन ऑडिटरी में हमने देखा इंटरफेरेंस विद स्पीच, अनॉयंस, एफिशिएंसी, इकोनॉमिक लॉसेस एंड फिजियोलॉजिकल चेंजेस. कंट्रोल ऑफ नॉइज कैसे करेंगे? केयरफुल प्लानिंग ऑफ सिटीज करेंगे, व्हीकल्स देखेंगे, अकाउस्टिक इंसुलेशन कराएंगे, इंडस्ट्रीज एंड रेलवेज, प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ एक्सपोज पर्सन, लेजिस्लेशन एंड एजुकेशन. नाउ विल बी मूविंग ऑन to the third concept of our class, which is water pollution. In the meantime, if anyone has any doubt, please feel free to ask me. In case if anyone has doubt, please feel free to ask me in the comment section below. Then we will move to the third concept of today's class, which is water pollution. Okay. Since I guess everything is clear to all the students, without any further delay, let's get started with the water pollution. Before that, we need to understand the concept of safe water. Safe and wholesome water has been defined as a water which fulfills these four criteria. If it doesn't fulfill these four criteria, it is to be called as polluted or contaminated. Now, what are those four criteria? Those four criteria are A, it should be free from any pathogenic agent. It should be free from any harmful chemical substances. It should be pleasant to taste. That means there should be no color, no odor, and it should be usable for domestic purpose. Clear? So any water, if it fulfills these four criteria, that is free from pathogenic agents, free from chemical waste, pleasant to taste, and it is usable for domestic purpose, we will call it as a safe and wholesome water. If it does not match, if any of the single criteria, अगर एक भी नहीं match हो रहा है, तो we will call it as polluted or contaminated water. Moving on to water pollution. Now, what is water pollution? See, it is almost impossible to, to appreciate the presence of pure uncontaminated water that occurs in nature. It contains impurities of various kinds, be it from natural sources or from man-made sources. The majority of water pollution in our country is caused by two reasons: A, urbanization, and B, industrialization. Clear? Now, what is urbanization? Urbanization is the process wherein people tend to migrate from rural areas to urban areas. And when they do this migration, they tend to cross the normal range or the maximum threshold value of that particular urban area. What is industrialization? We are living in an industrial world. Industries are growing at an exponential rate. And if they are growing at an exponential rate, they are also making, water pollution rise exponentially. Clear? So the two most likely causes of water pollution are, the two most common causes of water pollution are A, urbanization, and B, industrialization. Clear? Now we'll be discussing about sources of water pollution. Water pollution kahan se ho sakta hai? Whenever this topic comes in your NOSET exam or your subjective exam, and if you're not able to think of the answer, just try to, comprehend your surroundings and try to correlate the question with your environment. You will easily get your answer. Clear? So sources of water pollution are sewage. Now, sewage contains both decomposable organic matter and pathogenic agents. Industrial and trade waste, all that, water pollution which arises from industrialization will come under the industrial and trade waste. Next are agricultural pollutants. Now, whenever we are farming dominated country, and majority, like everything, majority of our people are employed in under the farming, right? So whenever they use any sort of fertilizers or pesticides, it tends to contaminate both soil and nearby water bodies, because if rains come, then it is likely to wash away the pesticides which were available in that particular field on that particular crop. Clear? Next, we have physical pollutants. Example, heat and radioactive substances. There is a release of radioactive substances from various sources, which in turn causes water pollution. So we have discussed about four sources of water pollution. A, sewage. B, industrial and trade waste. C, agricultural pollutants. And D, physical pollutants. Clear? Moving on to the water-related diseases. Now, this term, water-related diseases, it includes the classical waterborne diseases. Clear? And what are waterborne diseases? The diseases which are emerged from the contaminated source of water. Clear? Now, developing countries carry a very heavy burden of water-related diseases, and out of that, diarrheal diseases contributes to the maximum quantity of water-related diseases or waterborne diseases. Now, this could be your another probable question for NORCET, that which of the following disease contributes most proportion to the water-related diseases. So your answer will be diarrheal diseases. Then is the classification of water-related diseases. If the infected agent was anyhow or somehow related to water, they are uh, they are called to be water related, and there is a classification of viral, bacterial, protozoal, helminthic, and leptospiral. If the infective agent is viral in nature, it is likely to cause either viral hepatitis A, E, or poliomyelitis, or rotavirus, or diarrhea. Bacterial infective agents are likely to cause typhoid and paratyphoid fever. Protozoal infective agents tend to cause amoebiasis and giardiasis. Helminthic infective agent causes roundworm and threadworm, and leptospiral infective agent causes Wales disease. So classification of water-related diarrhea consists of viral causes, bacterial causes, protozoal causes, helminthic causes, and leptospiral causes. Now, those which occur due to aquatic host means their host was present in the water itself. Now, which are those diseases? If we talk about snail is seen in water, so it can cause schistosomiasis. Cyclops is also an aquatic creature and it causes guinea worm and fish tapeworm. Other effects of water pollution, we have discussed about the health aspects, that it can cause water related diseases, it can cause waterborne diseases, it can cause schistosomiasis, it can cause Wills disease. We discussed various types of diseases that are likely to be caused by the water, contaminated water. Now there are some other effects of water pollution also. Now the first is dental health, that is dental fluorosis. If the presence of fluoride is more than 1 mg per liter, up to 1 mg per liter, the presence of fluoride is known to protect us from the dental caries. But if there is a high level of fluoride, फ्लोराइड की प्रोटेक्शन लेवल कब तक होगी? जब तक उसका जो थ्रेशोल्ड है वो 1 mg पर लीटर को क्रॉस नहीं कर जाती. जब वो 1 mg पर लीटर को क्रॉस कर जाएगी, इट इज लाइकली टू कोज मॉटलिंग ऑफ टूथ और मॉटलिंग ऑफ डेंटल एनिमल. क्लियर है? नेक्स्ट इज साइनोसिस इन इन्फेंट्स. देर आर हाई नाइट्रेट कंटेंट्स ऑफ वाटर. अब पानी में नाइट्रेट आया कहाँ से? If you remember our sources of pollution, in that we discussed one source which was agricultural source. There are pesticides and insecticides, just as, for example, NPK or other fertilizers which have very high concentration of nitrates. उनकी वजह से जो water pollution हो रहा है, it in turn is causing the high nitrate content of water, which eventually is causing methemoglobinemia in cases of infants. And if there is methemoglobinemia in infants, the first manifestation of this condition is going to be cyanosis. Clear hai? समझ आया that how did we discuss the effects of water pollution? A section है water pollution के effects का, जिसमें हमने बात की है उसके हेल्थ एस्पेक्ट्स की, डिजीज एस्पेक्ट्स की, जैसे कि वाटर रिलेटेड डिजीजेस है, वाटर बॉर्न डिजीज है. सेकेंड सेक्शन में हमने पहले डिस्कवर किया डेंटल हेल्थ को, जिसमें इनिशियल स्टेजेस में वो प्रिवेंट कर रहा है डेंटल कैरीज से, और लेटर स्टेजेस में इट इज कॉजिंग द मॉटलिंग ऑफ डेंटल एनिमल. थर्ड इज साइनोसिस इन इन्फेंट. जो नाइट्रेट कंटेंट होता है, इफ इट इज इन एक्सेसिव इन केस ऑफ वाटर, इट इज लाइकली टू कॉज मिथ हीमोग्लोबिनीमिया. Clear? And the first manifestation is going to be cyanosis. Next is the water pollution law. To protect water from being contaminated, the Indian Parliament passed the Water Act in 1974. हमने Air Act भी discuss किया था. It would be great if any one of you could answer me in the comment section below कि Air Act कब पास किया गया था. हमने थोड़ी देर पहले ही डिस्कस किया है that when was the Air Act passed? Anyone in the comment section below? Yes, it was passed in 1981. And when is the Water Act passed? It is passed in 1974. Now, this act seeks to provide a legal deterrent against the spread of water pollution. Clear? Next is water purification process. The process of making water clean is known as water purification, and it is usually done at two levels or two scales. Either at small scales, जैसे कि अब हम अपने घरों में डोमेस्टिक पर्पसेस के लिए उसका करते हैं, लार्ज स्केल जैसे कि कई बार सीवेज ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट्स होते हैं या पूरी सिटी का पानी हमें एक साथ प्योरीफाई करना है, उस केसेस में भी वी यूज वाटर प्योरिफिकेशन सिस्टम। क्लियर? स्मॉल स्केल की अगर हम बात करें तो देर आर 5 मेथड्स। ए बॉइलिंग, बी केमिकल डिसइंफेक्शन, सी ब्लीचिंग पाउडर, डी फिल्ट्रेशन एंड क्लोरीन सोल्यूशन। अब नाम से दे आर वेरी क्लियर कि बॉइलिंग में बॉईल करना है, केमिकल डिसइंफेक्शन में केमिकल यूज करना है, ब्लीचिंग पाउडर वाले मेथड में ब्लीचिंग पाउडर यूज करना है, फिल्ट्रेशन में उसको फिल्टर करना है, क्लोरीन सोल्यूशन में उसको क्लोरीन ऐड करना है। But these all methods are very extensive. Clear? There are designated measurements which are supposed to be used for each one of them, and there is a certain technique which is supposed to be followed. I have not added the details of these all methods. Kindly go back and read it from your textbooks that what does each method mean in detail. Clear? I have not added because it would have been very, huge overload of content for one class. That's why I have not added the details of these small scale and large scale methods. However, I kindly request you to go back home and read about them in detail. Clear? Next is large scale water purification process. Whenever large scale water purification process is carried, it is usually done through a 3-step process. The first step is storage, B is filtration, and C is disinfection. Again, I have not added the details of large scale water purification system. Please go back and read it in depth because it would have been a very huge overload of content for you if I would have added these content here and now. Next are the standards of water. There are certain physiochemical and biological characteristics or benchmarks which are, targeted towards maintaining the optimum quality of water. For example, pH. The desired pH or the standard pH of water should be from 6.5 to 8.5. TDS content. The limit is 500 ppm, which is parts per million. Total hardness expressed in terms of the levels of calcium carbonate should not exceed the level of 300 ppm. Nitrate, it should not exceed the level of 45 ppm. Chloride, it should not exceed the level of 250 ppm. Sulfate, it should not exceed the level of 200 ppm. And fluoride, it should not exceed the limit of 1 ppm. I know it is a huge number of data to remember, but we have got no choice and we are supposed to remember all this data because it is likely to be asked in your exams. Biological characteristics. The presence of E. coli should not be there at all. There is no minimum desirable limit. There should not be even the presence of single E. coli bacteria in the water if it is supposed to be called fit. Clear hai? Next is the coliform count. It should not exceed a count of 10 in 100 ml water sample. क्लियर है सबको? इकोलाई का तो एक भी अलाउड नहीं है, एक सिंगल बैक्टीरिया ऑफ इकोलाई भी अलाउड नहीं है। कॉलीफॉर्म के लिए हमने लिमिट सेट की है अप टू 10। कितने में? 100 ml वाटर सैंपल में। ऐसा नहीं है कि 1 ml वाटर सैंपल में ही 10 आपको मिल गए, नहीं। 100 ml वाटर सैंपल की जो डिजायरेबल लिमिट है वो कितनी है? वो 10 है। किसके लिए? कॉलीफॉर्म के लिए। और इकोलाई के लिए कितनी है? 0 है। क्लियर? ये थी बायोलॉजिकल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स। फिजियोकेमिकल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स में हमने क्या देखा था? हमने पीएच देखा जो कितना होना चाहिए? 6.5 टू 8.5 होना चाहिए। टीडीएस किसको क्रॉस नहीं करेगा? 500 ppm को क्रॉस नहीं करेगा। हार्डनेस जो कैसे एक्सप्रेस करेंगे, कैल्शियम कार्बोनेट के टर्म्स में एक्सप्रेस करेंगे, वो कितने को क्रॉस नहीं करेगी, 300 को क्रॉस नहीं करेगी। नाइट्रेट 45, क्लोराइड 250, सल्फेट 200 और फ्लोराइड 1 ppm। क्लियर है। नेक्स्ट इज बैक्टीरियोलॉजिकल सर्विलेंस ऑफ वाटर। जब भी हम बैक्टीरियोलॉजिकल सर्विलेंस ऑफ वाटर करते हैं, हमने अभी दो देखे, इकोलाई हमने देखा और हमने कॉलीफॉर्म काउंट देखा। देर आर थ्री अदर ऑल्सो। कॉलोनी काउंट हम जनरली इकोलाई का ही देखते हैं। ए इज प्रिजम्पटिव कॉलीफॉर्म टेस्ट, बी टेस्ट यूज फॉर द डिटेक्शन ऑफ फीकल स्ट्रेप्टोकोकाई, क्लोस्ट्रीडियम परफ्रिंजेंस की प्रेफरेंस एंड कॉलोनी काउंट की प्रेफरेंस। हर एक बैक्टीरियोलॉजिकल इंडिकेटर का अपना एक सिग्निफिकेंस है। अगर हमें मोस्ट रीसेंट कंटैमिनेशन ऑफ वाटर देखना है तो उसके लिए कौन सा इंडिकेटर होगा, उसके लिए इंडिकेटर होगा डिटेक्शन ऑफ फीकल स्ट्रेप्टोकोकाई। याद कर लो। क्लियर है। अगर हमें लेट कंटैमिनेशन ऑफ वाटर देखना है तो उसके लिए हमारे पास कौन सा बैक्टीरियोलॉजिकल इंडिकेटर है, इकोलाई का। बेस्ट हम कौन सा मानते हैं, बेस्ट हम मानते हैं प्रिजम्पटिव कोलिफॉर्म टेस्ट या प्रिजम्पटिव कोलिफॉर्म काउंट। क्लियर है। नेक्स्ट इज वाटर कंजर्वेशन विच इज रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग। इट इज, ये हमने 8-9 क्लास में जरूर पढ़ा होगा सबने अपनी एनसीईआरटी बुक्स में कि रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग सिस्टम का मैकेनिज्म क्या होता है। अगर हम इसको सीधी सीधी सरल भाषा में समझे तो जो भी रेन वाटर है, बारिश के टाइम पे जो भी पानी आया उसको स्टोर करना आफ्टर फिल्ट्रेशन और फिर उसको अपने हाउस होल्ड यूजेस के लिए यूज करना। क्लियर है। अब आप उसे फिल्टर करेंगे फिर स्टोर करेंगे। अब वो सारा स्टोरेज कैसे होगा, वो पानी एक साथ आएगा कैसे, वो आप पाइप सिस्टम एस्टैब्लिश कर सकते हैं। ठीक है। फिर उसके बाद आप फिल्टर लगाएंगे, वो फिल्टर होगा, फिर आप उसे एक मेन टैंक में स्टोर करेंगे जहां पे एक पंप होगा। क्लियर। वहां से आप उसे गार्डन वाटरिंग के लिए यूज कर सकते हैं, टॉयलेट फ्लशिंग के लिए यूज कर सकते हैं, कार वॉशिंग के लिए यूज कर सकते हैं, क्लोथ वॉशिंग के लिए यूज कर सकते हैं, और आप इसे वेल्स में स्टोर कर सकते हैं या आप इसे ग्राउंड वाटर में भी भेज सकते हैं। क्लियर है। तो ये था रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग सिस्टम। सरल भाषा में वी आर collecting the rainwater and using it for their household chores. Clear है? With this, we come to an end with the third concept of our today's class, which was water pollution. Clear? So we have discussed air pollution, then we discussed about noise pollution, and then we discussed about water pollution. Now we will quickly try to recap and summarize what we have learned. At the end of the class, हमें ये पता होना चाहिए कि pollution होता क्या है, हर पोल्यूशन में क्या की डेफिनेशन क्या है, एयर पोल्यूशन की, नॉइस पोल्यूशन की और वाटर पोल्यूशन की। तीनों पोल्यूशन के सोर्सेस क्या क्या होते हैं। क्लियर। मेजर प्रिवेंशन एंड कंट्रोल मेजर्स क्या हैं, तीनों के इंडिकेटर्स क्या हैं, एयर पोल्यूशन के इंडिकेटर्स, नॉइस पोल्यूशन के इंडिकेटर्स और वाटर पोल्यूशन के इंडिकेटर्स। प्रिवेंशन एंड कंट्रोल इज वेरी 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 इंपॉर्टेंट फ्रॉम योर सब्जेक्टिव पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू। क्लियर है। I hope after these 65 minutes, you will be at least able to remember some things, at least some of my content, and you will be able to attempt your questions both in NORCET and both in your UG exams. अगर कुछ भी नहीं समझ आ रहा है कैसे आंसर करना है, क्या आंसर करना है, try to correlate इट विद योर एनवायरमेंट। जो क्वेश्चन में पूछा गया है, ट्राई टू कोरिलेट इट विद योर एनवायरमेंट, कि समझने की कोशिश करो कि हमारी एनवायरमेंट में, हमारे प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट में वो चीजें कैसे होती हैं, एंड फिर थोड़ा सा सोचो रैशनली एंड यू विल बी इजीली गेटिंग योर आंसर। क्लियर। नाउ विल बी डिस्कसिंग द पॉसिबल क्वेश्चंस। फर्स्ट इज व्हाट आर द सोर्सेज ऑफ एयर वाटर एंड नॉइस पोल्यूशन। मेजर सोर्सेज हम डिस्कस करेंगे जल्दी जल्दी। ऑटोमोबाइल्स हो सकते हैं, इंडस्ट्रियल सोर्सेज हो सकते हैं, व्हीकुलर सोर्सेज हो सकते हैं अगर हम एयर की बात करें, डोमेस्टिक सोर्सेज हो सकते हैं, इंडोर एयर पोल्यूशन हो सकता है। वाटर की बात करें तो वाटर के सोर्सेज क्या हो सकते हैं, इंडस्ट्रियल हो सकता है, ट्रेड हो सकता है, अगेन डोमेस्टिक भी हो सकता है, एग्रीकल्चरल भी हो सकता है। नॉइस, नॉइस का क्या होगा, इंडस्ट्री से होगी, रेलवे से होगी, रिक्रिएशनल सोर्सेज से होगी, डोमेस्टिक सोर्सेज से होगी, इंडस्ट्रीज से होगी। क्लियर। Now what are the various pollution control strategies? अगर हम एयर पोल्यूशन की बात करें तो एयर पोल्यूशन में हमने क्या क्या देखा था? हमने डाइल्यूशन देखा था, हमने कंटेनमेंट देखा था, लेजिस्लेशन हमने देखा था, इंटरनेशनल लॉज हमने देखे थे। नॉइस पोल्यूशन की बात करें तो नॉइस पोल्यूशन में हमने क्या क्या देखा था? हमने उसमें भी लेजिस्लेशन भी देखा था, हमने साउंड प्रूफ दीवारें देखी थी, हमने साउंड प्रूफ मटेरियल की बात की, उसके बाद हमने बात की कि प्रोटेक्टिव डिवाइसेस कौन से यूज कर सकते हैं। क्लियर है? एजुकेशन की हमने बात की कि एजुकेशन दे सकते हैं, और एजुकेशन का the source of education should not itself be a source of noise pollution. Then we discussed about water pollution. अब water pollution की कंट्रोल स्ट्रैटेजीज क्या है कि हम वाटर प्योरिफिकेशन कर सकते हैं, जिसके लिए हमने स्मॉल स्केल पे चीजें देखी और लार्ज स्केल पे चीज देखी, जिसपे आपका होमवर्क ये था दैट यू हैव टू गो बैक एंड रीड अबाउट इन डिटेल. सो आई हैव गिवन यू टू होमवर्क्स. The first, that why carbon monoxide is expressed in 8-hour concentration, and B is you have to go and read about read in detail about small scale and large scale water purification system. I'll be coming live tomorrow also at 6 p.m., in which we'll be discussing about solid waste management and sewage treatment. Before beginning my class, I want everybody to answer the the second question, that why carbon monoxide is expressed in 8-hour concentration. I want each one of you, to the students who will be joining me today, and they will definitely, I hope they'll definitely join me tomorrow also, and I want each one of you to write your answer in the comment section below. Clear? Now, the third possible question, that is role of nurses in the prevention and control of pollution. मैंने आई होप आप सब ये लिख पाएंगे. आपने बहुत सारे हेल्थ एजुकेशन असाइनमेंट्स भी अब तक किए होंगे अपनी कम्युनिटी पोस्टिंग्स में, एंड आई एम डैम श्योर दैट यू विल बी एबल टू अटेम्प्ट दिस आंसर विथ फुल ऑनेस्टी एंड इन फुल डिटेल्स. Clear? So with this, we come to an end of today's class, wherein we have discussed the concept of air pollution, followed by concept of noise pollution and concept of water pollution. In case if anybody has any sort of doubt, कोई चीज समझ नहीं आई हो, anything which you want me to repeat, please feel free to ask in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to answer all your doubts. I'm here to solve your queries, any doubts, any obstacles in learning community health nursing. Everyone at Nursing Next Live is committed to provide you with the best learning and best guidance. Clear? I'll be waiting for few seconds. If anyone has any doubt in this session, please feel free to ask me in the comment section below. Anyone has any doubt, please feel free to ask. Okay, since no one is asking any sort of doubt, I'm happy that everything is clear to you. When you go back, and then in case you have any doubt, then also I'll be more than happy to answer them tomorrow. I'll be coming live tomorrow again at 6 p.m. at the same platform, wherein we'll be discussing about solid waste management and sewage treatment plan. Till then, have a very happy learning. I, Miss Manjeet, your subject expert for community health nursing at Nursing Next Live, signing off. Hope we achieve our targets together. Thank you and have a very happy learning ahead.